Do I have another job? Yes, is the short answer, I suppose. So I think I've probably said to myself that I've done this full-time for content creation, that is, for about a year. Prior to that, I worked 2 jobs. So I did this full-time and I also did my other job full-time. I also worked for an employer at that time, which was pretty intense. Then about 2 years ago, I quit that employer and worked for myself doing my old job, which is sales. Now I do probably about 4 or 5 sort of exclusive jobs with my old clients a year. So it's just people that I know really well. We have a good time together and I know I can get the job done. So I mostly do this, but at the end of the day, it's all about the kids and paying the mortgage, and a house like this is not easy to maintain. So it's so interesting when I speak to so many women on this platform, how many different, often how many different jobs that they're doing. Everyone is just hustling. Obviously, being here, standing with you and cutting dahlias is obviously a very lovely part of my job, but there's also all the admin, all the, there's just, it's a different way. I have to say, working for myself has been the absolute highlight of my career so far. Just being my own boss is pretty incredible. And I think that's probably what has changed me the most, having been in a very corporate, very high stress level job for 20 years. This job is not as stressful. It is different in a sense that it is, there's more eyes on you, there's more trolls, there's more people questioning you and thinking about who you are and why you're doing things. And that has been a huge learning curve in itself, that understanding that not everyone will like you. And I have a real bad trait in the sense that I want everyone to like me. And that is not a sensible trait. It's just, I don't know, it's just a silly thing, isn't it? Innate in some people that I just had to get over pretty quickly, because in this environment where people feel as though they can and do know you, or feel as though they can say anything to you that they could possibly want to without really knowing your background, you got to get over it. So that was a big learning curve in this current job. So while it's not stressful in the same sort of way, there's lots of other elements to it that make it sort of stressful in a different way. One of the other things that I think this job is really underestimated is with my old job, corporate, I woke up and I knew exactly what I would be doing that day. And in a way, that's really comforting, because you don't have to, your brain has to work in one way. Imagine, literally having sort of 8 or 9 different sort of roles within a role of content creator, writing a book, replying to emails, being an administrator, upkeeping the house, doing the actual content, writing the content, storyboarding, speaking to clients. I had no idea what it entailed, or what people actually did, and how much work it was. And it is brilliant, absolutely epic. And I'm so, so happy and grateful that it's little old me doing it. But it's also not as easy as it looks. What's something I wish I knew when I was in my 20s? That you don't have to dance to someone else's tune. Working hard at work was really important to me, and doing well was really important to me. So I think I just really worked my absolute nuts off. But it was all for someone else, which is totally fine and really important, in fact, actually, to get a grounding of what hard work means. And it was just a different way, a different time, but it also just taught me so much about how to work hard, what long hours were, being regimented about how to do things. But I wasn't strong enough to stand up for myself a lot. I also felt quite overpowered by men a lot. Not that I blame them for that. I blame myself for not standing up and saying more. But again, it was a different time, I just feel like the path was working hard, getting a corporate job and doing really well at it. And I think now, with a mixture of things, COVID being one of them, there is a different path for people. There are new ideas, perhaps our children won't go to university. The world is changing. The concepts of what working hard means and what, enjoying yourself means, I think, has changed in people's concepts and mindsets. So I think that would be the major thing, sort of just dance to your own tune, believe in yourself, and everything else will come right. Gosh, how do I split my time between family life, work, and influencing? The honest answer is I actually don't know. I wish I was more organised. As I mentioned before, my husband is super organised, so that really, really helps. I would say that my kids are naturally into things, which I'm really grateful for. So they love sport and they love art and they love all these things. So they do a lot of clubs. So we do, breakfast club, and then they'll do like a sport. So India's doing they're both doing swimming tonight. But that means, again, your day is cut short because you've got to pick them up, get them to the swimming. And also, is swimming not the most stressful thing? Getting 2 kids into their swimming kit on time into the pool always just seems to be really stressful. How do I do it? I would say with great difficulty and probably much more flapping than you think I have, than you see on Instagram. And I think really more than anything, it's just keep going. I actually feel much better now. I'm in a routine again after the summer holidays. And again, it's just like, cracking on, just getting on. I get up early. I start work usually about 7, half 7, work sort of, right on through when I can, just around the children. Again, what's amazing, and I'm really grateful for, is being able to work for myself, because that does mean that if I need to pick up the kids, or if I need to go and watch a match or something that Rafe's playing, then I can do, but I just need to make it up at another time. And I think one of the things that any influencer or content creator will tell you is that you never stop working. That has been the biggest kind of eye-opener, because you're just always on your phone. You're always looking at content to create. You're always looking at things that could be a good angle. So even weekends, I get up, I'm on my phone, I'm planning what I'm doing for the day. It is tricky, but one of the best things that Rue said to me, actually, my husband, about 6 months ago, he was like, it's actually amazing how much content you get when I just never see you actually videoing. So that was a really nice compliment. What would be my advice for the darkest days of poor health? I have to sit down for that one, I think. So I'll draw on maybe 2 things. I personally have not been in the darkest days of poor health. I've been through multiple rounds of IVF. So I wouldn't say necessarily that is obviously poor health, but it was maybe poor mental health. My husband had testicular cancer. He's right as rain, and we had our son super easily on the NHS first time. India, we joke her second name is Garage because she costs so much money. And we just did, I think, 7 rounds without any joy. And I think those were pretty dark days, because you're on a treadmill of injections and hormones and yearning and desperation and emotions, because you're seeing other people get pregnant. You're also blaming yourself because you're like, well, I've already got a baby, shouldn't be this upset about it. So I think everyone's coping mechanism is really different. So actually, I don't think there's a one size fits all. For me, what works for me is just carrying on. I'm the sort of person that I'm very, very good at putting things in boxes and burying it away, which obviously I have now opened up, and we've worked through those. But at the time, it was a really good coping mechanism for me to just keep going through all the different rounds and, trying again and again and again, because that's just what I needed. I didn't want someone to hold my hand too tightly, because that would have felt too emotional for me. And then I think the other example that I would have, again, it's not me, but my mother. So we got married 11 years ago, and we got married in the May, and then in the October, she had a completely debilitating, life-changing stroke. So she went from playing tennis 4 days a week to being in a care home, completely not herself, not recognising anyone. And that was really hard, obviously, to kind of lose your mum. But I think actually, in a way, it's even harder because they're still there. They're not your mum anymore, and you suddenly have to flip roles, and you're the mother, and you're the carer, and you're the one that has to look after everything. And again, my modus operandi was carry on, crack on. So that's what we did. I went into organisation mode, and we sold her house, bought a different house, to then rent that out so we could pay for the care. Basically, she was a teacher, and I just didn't want, the 50 years that she'd worked as a teacher to all go on care home. So we managed to do it somehow, really, through hook or by crook, we managed it. And that was, those were the hardest days of my life, like 2 kids, both of us in really stressful jobs. My husband in a startup. He was working until 3 a.m. a lot of the time. It was a really, really tough time. But again, just carrying on and having a really supportive partner was really, really important. And then I suppose to wrap both those examples up of me saying, crack on, at the time, 100%, it was what I needed to do. But I had a huge crash, as you can imagine is sort of inevitable after, big, huge, consequential activities like going through IVF and losing your mother. So I sought a life coach, which is basically just for people who don't think that they need therapy. They call on a life coach. It was therapy. So it was a life coach in a sense, because I felt like I needed a move. I needed to change my job. I was completely paralyzed, huge tears. Like I was literally crying all the day, all the time, like 5 years ago, just didn't know what was wrong with me. And actually that was what was wrong. I just needed to let out all this, pain, I suppose, that I'd kept in because my way of doing things was crack on. So I guess to summarize, if you're going through a really, really tough patch, physically, then perhaps crack on and keep going and, keep that momentum and keep that positive spirit alive with your family. But if it's mentally, then I think, speaking to someone is really, really important. And I attribute it actually with probably the biggest change in my life. It's been the biggest and best thing that I've done. Gosh, what was my life like before Mulberry House? Very, very different. We lived in London, like a lot of people, pre-moving out to the countryside. My husband and I both went to uni in London, so we'd been in London for 13 years before we moved here, both working in the city, both working ridiculously long hours for corporate organisations. My husband used to work in a bank actually, but then he started to work in sustainability, which he absolutely loves now, which is really important as we've learnt to love our jobs. And it was just party. We had a great bunch of friends in London. We spent a lot of time going out, enjoying London and just really making the most of it. And then the last couple of years of London, I was very mindful after we got married that we would have to go through IVF because my husband had testicular cancer twice, which thankfully he battled through. So I was always very aware that that is something that I needed to do, and I was like, it was kind of, I can talk about IVF more another time, but it was just always on my radar. It was something that I knew was in my future, so it was an easier preparation perhaps for me than most. And as part of that, the sort of broody homemaking, I suppose, it made me yearn for the countryside, yearn for more space and a slightly slower pace of life perhaps. And that's kind of what started the whole journey towards Mulberry House, because we just felt like we needed a little bit more space, and I was always yearning for the countryside. But I would say my life now could not be more different to my life in London. But again, that's just one of those things in life that at that age, it was the perfect time for me to be doing those things. And at this age, this is the perfect thing to be doing for me right now, just picking some Cavolo Nero to shove into a pesto to get the kids to eat some greens. Where do I buy my children's clothes? Lots of different places. Predominantly, there's a company called Amaya, Trotters, La Coqueta. I do get some stuff from Next. Where else do I get stuff from? There's a lovely company called Pepper & Co. And generally just, Joules. Love Joules for anything outdoors. They just do fabulous coats, and you can really go large on the sizes as well. You can get, if they're 9, you can get an age 11, 12, and hopefully they'll still be in it in 3 or 4 years' time. But for me, dressing children as children has always been something I wanted to do. I used to scour eBay before my son was born, because it wasn't really popular to dress your child like that, and so I used to look on eBay to try and find these wonderful clothes and just dress him like a little prince. Little Peter Pan collars and little bloomers. Just think children should look like children for as long as possible. Favourite perfume at the moment, and it has been for quite some time, Fern. It's so natural and they change it every season. So this season's is, I think it's apples and vanilla and peppercorn, and I just love it being a more natural scent. It seems to sort of go with your own body scent, if that makes sense. But yeah, Fern is definitely my favourite. What's my style for wintertime? I would say probably like Very Little Women. I like the idea of layering a lot, so I'll often wear a dress, as you can see, and put a knit vest or a knit on top, and as many layers underneath as I can. So I have some thermal leggings, thermal skin tops that go under in the depths of winter, and then I just layer everything. So I do go through winter and just keep wearing dresses for as long as possible. And I really am into, I've got a few coats from Cabbages and Roses, and I've got some coats from Son de Fleur, and it just makes the outfit, a coat so often is just an add-on to the outfit. Actually, the coat should be the outfit so often, because you spend so much time outdoors. So I absolutely love those coats. Some of them are quite sort of frock coats, some are quite military, some are quite Victorian. So I would really recommend investing in a couple of coats. And this is not a plug, but I have got some exciting news to tell you, that I have just recently designed a collection with Son de Fleur, and we have designed the most amazing frock coat, which I'm really excited to show you and share with you. Hold that thought for that one for now, but that will be coming out in January. How to be unapologetically yourself. I mean, if someone knows the answer to that, please tell me. I don't know, I've grown a lot since having children, I think, and moving here and just knowing a sense of my own design rather than copying anyone else. I think at the time my head was being turned by trends, both in interiors and also my own personal style. Whereas now, I think I dress quite theatrically, which is great because it does give you a bit of a different persona. So if you know, it is quite nice putting on, you know, a frock coat that reminds you of being in Beatrix Potter or Little Women. And, you know, if I could live my life vicariously in a period drama, I definitely would. So just living, sort of just having fun and being joyful with it, I think is probably a really big element. And I think I am dressing for women, not for men. I'm dressing in, you know, the sorts of things that you would have worn in 1940s to keep yourself warm. So I think how to be unapologetically yourself, I still probably struggle with. I think, don't we all struggle with imposter syndrome, with comparing ourselves to others. It's almost nigh and impossible, you know, with Instagram. But, you know, at the end of the day, you could get knocked down by a bus the next day. So, you know, making the most of life, making the most of the day that you've got, waking up thinking, and don't get me wrong, I don't do this every day, but I try to wake up every day and think, okay, today could be the best day of my life. And that is not an easy thing to do, especially in the winter. But if I find a tiny bit of joy in one day, then, you know, that is a really good thing. Like, for example, peeling my kale. So I don't 100% know the answer to that, but I hope that helps and enables you to feel a bit freer. I think we'll always, you know, have feelings and wonder what people think of us, but at the same time, yeah, why not enjoy it? What I do to stay physically fit now is predominantly Pilates. I've done it for Reformer Pilates, sorry. I've done it for about a year and it is a complete game changer. I didn't used to love Pilates because I just didn't feel as though it was enough kind of a like sweat workout, but actually Reformer Pilates is insane and really great, and great for my posture, great for my back, great for my old hips. So that has really transformed my exercise routine, and I also love it because I think it's quite balletic because you're moving on this Reformer machine and it is sort of synchronized. It's sort of very beautiful. So I enjoy it from that perspective, and also from the perspective that I can wear a little ballet top and a little you know, ballet sweat trousers, because I did used to dance, not professionally, but to a reasonably high level, and I did all sorts. So all the usual when I grew up: ballet, tap, modern, jazz, particularly ballet, and then during uni, and then about 15 years after uni, I did a lot of salsa, bachata, a lot of the Latin style dances, which I still absolutely love, and rock and roll, Lindy Hop, etc. And dance has been a massive part of my life. I've danced since I was 3. I just need to make the time to go and see it. And yes, you've spied my point shoes, which India now loves trying on. I used to do point work, again, not professionally, but to a reasonable standard. And we used to do lots of shows and lots of performing, and that was very much my happy space. Being on stage, you know, throwing off any shackles of who you are and just performing and being this sort of, you know, different person, I suppose, on stage, and just the vibe and the buzz that it brings you, I'll never forget. And I would love to get back into it. In fact, I did a little bit of dancing at Goodwood Revival. There was a friend of a friend, who was there, and he was into Sarok, which I've never done before. But it was just so lovely dancing with him, and my goodness, you forget how difficult it is to dance for, you know, a 4 minutes, you know, Lindy Hop or Sarok or jive song. It's absolutely exhausting. So it's brilliant for you, and I would love to take it up again, but maybe when the kids are a bit older and I'm not ferrying them around quite so much to all their ballet and their jazz and their tap, maybe I can get back into it too. How I start preparing for Christmas and when. So I guess it's getting earlier every year. I mean, obviously my now job does depend on brand deals and working with brands that we start working on Christmas in August. But for my own home and how I would recommend for anyone else, I suppose I would say the best thing would be to start that tail end of November weekend, the first weekend of December. Go and get the tree and let it all start happening. Personally, I will probably start at the beginning of November this year, but that is only because I have shoots and photographers coming over. We've got Hello Magazine, we've got Homeworthy, which is really exciting, but the house needs to be ready. So if I didn't do this job, then I would say it's usually that first weekend we get the tree and then Christmas starts. But this year it is going to be a bit earlier for us. Gosh, what skill would I want to learn? I think that's a really hard question. I think I would love to learn a little bit more about skills that I already have. So photography, videography, for example. I would love to know, to learn way more about color blending in videography. So that would be something I would love to invest a bit more time in and get some more experience in, because I find it so fascinating and it's just really lovely to be able to do that as well for my current job. I think other things, again, I probably want to start learning some new dances again, feeling like I've got that creativity from a performance perspective as well as through creativity on Instagram. So I don't think there's a specific thing that I would love to learn that's new, just because, I mean, I feel like life is pretty busy anyway, and I've got a lot of things that I'm juggling, but to be better at a couple of them would be really great.